We are going to tunnel right through the Brea tar pits. This is a very unique project. For this project, we're using 2 tunnel boring machines, which we usually refer to just as TBMs for short. We have a type of TBM that can maintain a pressure at the face. That way, we can mine through the ground and not cause any surface settlement or actually heave the ground. The TBMs have a maximum advance rate of 125 millimeters per minute, and we're targeting about 65 feet per day. On our fastest day, 190 feet over 24 hours, we would make it 2/3 of the way across a football field. And on an average day, probably make it only about 1/3 of the way across the field. Tunnel excavation is pretty straightforward. We turn the cutter head through the ground and just essentially eat away at the soil. And once we excavate 5 feet, we'll then go into ring building mode. So right here we have some of the precast concrete segments that we use to build the tunnel rings with. Using a segment erector on the machine, it's placed around into a circular configuration with the keystone sliding in last to form the tunnel support. That is the final finished product of the tunnel.
The tunnels are about 75 feet below the surface, and that level is basically because the top of the station has to be below all the utilities that are in the street. Throughout California, we have oil underneath the ground, and wherever you can have oil, then you can also have hydrogen sulfide. So whenever you're working underground, you have to put certain precautions into place. Down here, we've got a ventilation system. Each ventilation fan is pulling approximately 100,000 cubic feet of air per minute down into the station. What you see behind me is 4 of 5 gas sensors that are here at the back end of the trailing gear. Right now, the air down here is the same quality as the air that we had upstairs. The environmental process for the Purple Line identified that here it was better if we used what are called self-contained self-rescuers. What it does is it takes the carbon dioxide out of the air that the person breathes out and puts more oxygen into the air when they breathe it back in.
Starting this project, we knew that there was a high potential to find fossils because we were so close to the Brea tar pits. And during the station excavation, we actually found a mammoth skull about 20 feet underground. The Westside Purple Line project is such a huge, important infrastructure project that we need more of, both in this city and this state. And I just like to know that I'm working on something that will be here for 100 years or more, and it will help people's lives every day.